Hello all, I got another track guide for you. This is for the Dallara P217 LMP2 at the updated Watkins Glen. I think I did a video for this in the past, but it would be the old Watkins Glen. There's some small changes. It kind of drives the same still, but some of the curbing and whatnot's a little bit different. Runoff area, yada yada yada. This is going to be preparing for the 6 hours of Watkins Glen that's in mid-June, maybe something like that. I believe that's when it is. I think it's around the 18th, 19th, somewhere in there. I mostly record these videos for some people that are in an oval league with me that I race with. I am by no means a top tier iRating top split guy. I kind of hover right around 2000 iRating for what it's worth to you. This isn't going to be getting every second out of the lap. It's going to be for somebody that's a little bit less experienced with the track, just kind of getting some general braking points and lines. Do not expect to be competing against your Verstappens and Benekes and whatnot of the world using my track guide. Anyways, so I will kind of break down the lap a little bit slower here the first time through, and then I'll just play it back at full speed and provide any additional commentary as necessary. So headed down into turn one. I leave it in fifth gear here. I don't think you have that. Maybe if you have some draft, you'll get it up in the sixth gear, but kind of as this 200 board is passing my A-pillar here, obviously your field of view could change this a little bit, but as it's reaching about here is where I'm letting off the throttle and getting hard onto the brake. I'm taking it down to second gear. And then when you're turning in, you want to keep it on this lower part of the curbing. You want to avoid this part of the curbing. If you hit this part, it's going to unsteady the car and it's going to push you out wide. You're going to get down to the curbing. You're going to push out. Now here on exit, you are fair game on this red and yellow curbing all the way until you get your right sides off over this edge here. It does kind of feel like there's some kind of weird bumps and undulations in this, especially in this car. I've noticed the traction control will sometimes kick in and it'll kind of take like a, I'll call it a harsh bounce or whatever. Obviously, setup could have something to do with that, but just something to keep an eye on. You're going to be flat out through here. Want to get to the right here. Avoid the curbs as much as you can. You just don't want to unsteady the car. Up the top, high gear here, sixth gear. Alright, so heading into the bus stop. The marker I use is a little bit after this 300. This guy wearing an orange shirt. You'll see this orange on the wall, and then this kind of wall is ending where this other one is kind of bending in. Same deal as turn one when this is passing right here before my A-pillar, or this white line that's on the track is a little bit before it, but that's where I'm going to do my braking. I'm going to go down to fourth gear. I take a ton of curbing here on the first two parts of the bus stop. I'll call it 4 parts. You'll have right side here, left side, and then right side on exit. So the first right, left, I take a ton of curbing. I've seen people do it multiple different ways. Some people completely avoid them. Some people jump way across them. The car will sometimes bounce funny, so it may be better to avoid them, but this lap I do take a lot of curbing. Pretty heavy initial braking. So you're going to be back to full throttle here. You're going to notice going into what I'll call the carousel outer loop. It's called a few different things. I let out the throttle a little bit, and I only use the slightest amount of trail brake. And I wouldn't even call it trail brake. I just use a very minuscule amount of brake for a very brief period of time to kind of set the car. It was just a blip there, and then I'm back to full throttle here, exiting all the way out across the curbing here. I'll jump up to fifth gear here. Let me advance it a few frames here. So there's this little notch in the grass here I'm already braking here, so this is kind of about where you're going to want to do your braking. As you run more and more laps, you'll just kind of get comfortable doing it in relation to this is a good sight line to use. But you'll go down to third gear here. Try and avoid this curb to the left. You can get on it a little bit, but you don't want to get on too much because, again, it will unsteady the car. You want to exit out wide on that yellow and red curb, but just don't dip tires over onto the dirt. Same deal as turn 1 in the bus stop, as this 200 board is passing my A-pillar here. I do a little bit of a later turn in, get it to the bottom, then back on the throttle hard here. Exit all the way out across that asphalt, almost to the grass. Just obviously don't get into the grass. Same deal here. You can't really see the writing on the board. This is a 300, 200, 100. Same deal with the second board or 200 board as it's passing the A-pillar. Second gear. Get close to the curb, but don't touch it. You can exit out over the yellow and red curb here. I think all the way to the grass. It doesn't count as an incident point, but you don't want to run too wide because you need to get back to the right. I don't even know what turn you call this turn. This turn sucks. It's off camber, meaning it angles outward. So it's kind of just wanting to push your car to the right and make it not turn the entire time. The track state I have this at now, this is not really heavily rubbered in. As the track gets rubbered in more and more, there will be a darker section that will form. That's a good point to use for braking for this turn. But when you don't have that, you're kind of just going off of feel. I don't know if you can see it. There is some like minor color changes here in the asphalt. It's kind of like a lighter patch in here, and then it gets a little bit darker. That's kind of roughly where you're going to do your braking. Right here. Try not to pause this too much for you guys, because I know that can be frustrating when you're trying to learn it, but it's right about here. I'm going to go down to second gear. Same deal. You want to get your lefts as close to onto this yellow line as possible, but I'm avoiding the curbing. You have to be patient getting into the throttle here. If you jump into it too hard, it will try and spin on you. And you also don't want to push out too wide on exit and get to the grass. Alright. Here, you can see I'm starting a little bit of a turn in. I'd say right at the 100 board's kind of where I do my turn in. I'm not braking. I'm just going kind of half throttle here. I don't use any brake. Back into the throttle. Exit out onto the curb here, but then you immediately need to get back to the left side of the track. You're going to see where this blue, like, safer barrier is ending, kind of as that's passing your A-pillar. You are going to do your braking, kind of moderate braking, drop it a gear down to third. I think I touched the curb here. It's not ideal because you can kind of see how it's angled, but hard into the throttle. I could have exited way out closer to that wall, but up to fourth gear, and that's completing a lap. Yeah, you can kind of see I'm using a little bit of transparency in the UI so you can kind of see what gear and all I'm in. But let me play this lap back at full speed for you. I'll actually let a couple laps play because I did a 34.0 and then a 33.6. So just kind of see what some of these laps look like. It's 200 boards passing the A-pillar, down to second. I don't think that was and I may have used third gear there, but I don't think that counted as an off track. That was about as far as you can go without it counting. But up to sixth gear here. As the end of that wall is passing your A-pillar. Gonna go down to fourth. Just a little bit of quick stab of the brake. Gonna exit out wide across the curbing here. Gonna go down to third gear. Drove in a little bit deeper that time, closer to where that concrete patch was I was talking about. Second gear, kind of a late apex. .200 board. Second gear. I missed the apex there. Missed the apex there as well. That's what I was talking about, getting into the throttle. You could hear the traction control kicking in. Down to third gear. I think sometimes people leave it in fourth gear there also. Don't be surprised if that's a thing. 200 board. Second gear. End of the wall, fourth gear, blip of the brake, start rolling back into the throttle. You get back into the throttle pretty early. Down to third, trying to avoid the curb, but exit all the way out onto the curb. 200 board, late apex. 200 board here as well. Down to second gear. No brake here, turn at the 100 board. I use a bit more curve there, but down to third gear. And exit. That is it. Let me know if you got questions. I definitely try and answer pretty promptly, and hopefully I can answer any questions you may have. But thanks for watching.